Hey,
How are you?
good.
This is John Adam. John Adam, Ron Shelton.
Hi,
John,
Ron. Hi,
Uh,
John.
John and I have known each other pretty well when I started a book on County Stadium about 4 years ago. John's from California, you're from California, and I've been intrigued by the Southern California ball player, John Adam. He's been friends with Robin Yount for probably 40 years. John, what is it about that ball player from California? Why is it, do you think, that I'm so enamored with Kid, and what does he personify?
Well, as Ron would tell you, first of all, there's millions of high school boys there that play baseball since they're 6 years old on up, and everybody thinks they're going to be a baseball star. But just back in the '60s, '70s, so many good baseball players in the Southern California. And I think Robin Yount, along with many others, George Brett, Scott McGregor, I could go on, Jamie Quirk, were Southern California boys, and they just kind of exuded that Southern Cal vibe.
And Ron, you were
Ozzie Smith, you know,
Yeah, Ozzy. Actually, I knew him as Osborne when he was at Locke High School, the same high school as Eddie Murray.
right.
And all the Murray brothers. I played against them in high school, and they had a pitcher on that team. Graduated from high school in '71, though, right-handed. He signed him with the Pirates. Larry Demery. Do you
I
remember him?
remember. Yeah.
He threw hard. Really, kind of a flash in the pan, but yeah, there's just so many good. Lonnie Smith went to Centennial High School.
Yeah.
On and on.
The numbers, it's a numbers game, Jim. I mean, you've got the weather. LA County is often said would be the 10th biggest state in the country. And that doesn't count the adjacent counties, Orange County, Riverside County, San Diego County, Ventura County. So just one county would be the 10th biggest state. And, as I know, my kid's a freshman in college. He was a ball league catcher last year in high school. The numbers, the 750 high schools in Southern California. So, most states don't have 200 high schools. So it's the numbers. And not long ago, Milwaukee had, when it had Braun and Yelich and Mustakas, they all were from the Valley. They all were from right around the high schools around Robin Yount, around Taft.
Yeah.
Right? They all played within a mile of each other.
Yeah, all the good baseball, what was mostly the Valley boys. Everyone worked out at Valley College on the weekend, and that's just a good old Ray Poit event, scouting everybody, and Al Kupsky and people like that. And
Al signed me, and I had my workout at Pierce JC.
Oh yeah, Al signed me twice. How about that? And here's your bit of trivia. And Dennis says it all the time. Dennis Gilbert, I'm sure you know Go-Go.
I played against him.
Yeah, Go-Go always says, first player I ever signed was me, John Adam. And then he follows it with, and I almost lost my job because of that. But other than that, no, that's it was just a ton of good baseball players back then, and I'm sure there's a ton now.
I mean, I'm just fascinated by.
Go ahead,
No,
Jim.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, just going through the high school wars and the club travel team with my son. There was a last year, because they were in the league with this high school, CR Canyon. CR Canyon's number one pitcher, 6'4", 240. There was 32 scouts at our high school when they played against him. This guy, and they all had guns on him. And he was sitting on 95. Mostly it was 95. And he kept hitting 97. He had 2 breaking balls. And he didn't like where he was drafted this year, so he's gone to LSU to improve his draft. And the number 2 starter there, full ride to Duke. And the number 3 starter, full ride to University of California, San Diego. So that's 3 starters in one high school going D1 or professional. and so I think it's just it's the environment here. I mean, it's just built for baseball.
Yeah, and the weather. Yeah, it's the weather.
Johnny was head trainer for the Brewers for 20 years, and then he went on to the PGA. Johnny and Ron, with arms, the pitchers you guys used to see compared to the quality starts, as a non-baseball player, as me, I'm just always blown away about how we have any reverence for quality starts. And I get it, it's about the money, but can you guys talk a little bit about the pitchers? And I don't know if you know, Johnny, Ron spent 5 years in the Orioles system, AAA. So you guys, can you talk about some of the pitchers you faced, Ron, and then John, chime in when you know them?
Well, Ron, before you start, let me interject. Congratulations on surviving 5 years in Rochester, if that's where you were.
The last year and a half in Rochester, I had to move my way up.
Yeah, but go ahead.
The pitchers.
Well, two or three things. Nobody radar guns were not common, and nobody really cared, and guys who threw hard didn't throw hard every pitch. I mean, they set you up. They, I mean, I think the hardest thrower I ever faced was Jim Bibby, who, remember him? He was about 6'5", 240.
Huge with the Pirates.
Yeah,
sure.
20 games, 4 years. A big, strong guy, but even Bibby, they didn't throw 95, 97 every pitch. They had breaking balls. They set, and now it's guys just come in and fire. And I also think it's why there's so many sore arms.
Yeah.
The other thing that you'll remember, John, is those power pitchers, starters, were always like trying to get out of the first couple innings. And if they could get through the first couple innings, they had you. You tried to get to them early. But sometimes you didn't see their best fastball till the fourth inning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you see first pitch,
absolutely.
and then they go in for surgery, and Tommy John, they move their muscles around and they keep going. So I think it was more of a finesse game. Certainly there weren't that many guys throwing that speed when I played, no question about it.
Mm.
But there were guys that, what's the key to pitching? It was explained to me in an airport bar by a career AAA guy once. He made it so simple. The success to pitching is how many pitches can you throw for a strike when you're behind on the count? What an elegant way to look at pitching. And I do think there was a lot of guys that could throw a lot of pitches, but for strikes behind the count, but they couldn't throw 97 all that often.
Was Greg Maddux, would he be an example of someone like that?
Absolutely. He would be the king of that.
No, yeah. Definitely.
And he never threw the ball anywhere but the edges.
Yeah.
I remember, Johnny, in your dealing with injuries, early in 82 versus 2002, was there a drastic bit of difference with all ball players? Or did things change?
Yeah. I mean, what Ron said is true. I mean, yes, everyone's bigger, stronger, throws harder, and the game is. I mean, you get drafted now based on what the radar gun shows, and no, guys, now everyone throws in the mid-90s who gets drafted, and that's just how it is. Whereas in the 70s and 80s, no.
Yeah, you wonder if Whitey Ford or Mike Cuellar would have ever signed.
No, they'd never. But it's just a whole different game now. So it's apples and oranges. It has moved on. You could say the same for a lot of sports. It's just how it has evolved. Guys are bigger and stronger, and all the emphasis is placed on how hard you can throw the ball. And that's it. And you know what? Starters only go 5 innings now, and big deal. And nobody wants to hear that someone threw a complete game. Mm-hmm. One. I mean, I just saw an old film clip of one of the pitchers I had in 1987 threw 3 consecutive shutouts.
Yeah.
No one does that anymore. Nobody.
Yeah, Koufax had 27 complete games one season.
Yeah.
Here's a you can win a lot of bar bets with this one, although for you guys it's probably old news. Who's the only pitcher who has more complete games than wins, and he's in the Hall of Fame?
I'm going to say Spawn.
That's a great guess because Marichal had 240, I think, 2 wins and 243 complete games.
Wow.
Hey, Ron,
Wow.
did you see the documentary on Nolan Ryan recently?
Yeah.
And I've heard some people on Facebook say, oh, well, he was one-dimensional. I'm like, 7 no-hitters is, to me, not one-dimensional. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think he's as effective as any other pitcher.
Well, he had a 12-6 curveball. No,
Yeah.
When it was on, right? When it was on.
Yeah.
What does that mean, when that is not on? I mean, is that just one of those trillion-dollar questions that you don't have it today? And I've always been mesmerized by how you don't have it one day.
Well, look at the greatest shooters in basketball suddenly are cold. I mean, how can a golfer, for us average golfers, you go out there and you shoot your great round, and the next day you shoot your worst round. I said, look at the best players in the world shoot 64, 76. I mean, that's the magic of sports, the edge between having it and not having it.
Yeah. Finding consistency.
Ron told me once that golfers make baseball players look smart.
Well, that's what I told you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What do I mean? It's the mentality. I mean, the first few years I was working on the PGA, I kept thinking, what is so odd about this sport? And I golf, myself, but, and then it finally just dawned on me. I'm just like, well, it's an individual sport. And the mentality is totally different with these guys. And they're golfers for a reason. I mean, they're not super physical. They don't like people touching them. They certainly wouldn't play a sport where someone shoved them. But
talk
you know
them
what?
out loud, or talk to them out loud when they were doing it.
Yeah, something I did to them often. Yes, as Kevin Kisner and Hunter Mahan used to remind me. No, I mean, hey, look, they're the elite golfers, and that's what they're good at, and more power to them. But it's a different sport. It's such a mental sport at that level, particularly. It's really something. It wears them down. It really does. But trust me, those PGA golfers, they look at those baseball players and they are envious of them, because they'll say a lot of times, they'll just go, we'll be watching Sports Center afterwards on the trailer, and somebody will get hurt and they'll say, oh yeah, well, he still gets paid. The guy's going to be out for 2 months. He still gets paid. And I look at them, they'll always say how, hey man, we have to make the cut to get paid. And I'm just like, boy, that's a selective memory, because you all get minimum $100,000 for the sponsorship on your bags. Let's start there. But they forget that, and your
hat, and
they just whore the hell out of themselves. Hat, shirt, you name it. They all get a fee for using a certain ball, and they see what they want to see. Mm-hmm. I also remind them that the baseball players, they play every day. Mm-hmm. I always used to say the best kept secret in Major League Baseball is you get 1 day off for every 20 games played. Mm-hmm.
I think what John's saying, and I know a lot of the golfers too, because of Tin Cup, I'm a close friend with McCord, and the golfers are very narrow-minded, Jim, and it's how to repeat yourself, and they all become head cases. They really are head cases.
Yeah.
And guys like McCord, who are very creative dudes, it doesn't fit them. He made it 17 years on tour without winning. To me, that was a sign of how good he was, to be honest. Mm-hmm. He won a bunch of times on the senior tour, but he's a creative guy. And he used to talk about playing in tournaments with Trevino. And Trevino would be in the middle of the fairway, and he'd say, "Hey Gary, watch this." Instead of he would to keep himself engaged, Trevino, he'd hit a cut shot in to a green he didn't have to, or hook one in. He'd be working on stuff in the middle of the round until it got to be a major. And then he'd win the major. So
Yes.
that was how Trevino kept a creative mind going. McCord just is all over the map, which is why I love Gary.
Yeah.
Baseball players, they drink, they party, they chase, all of that. But what nobody knows, what John said, and the minors is even worse. You play every day, you're exhausted. That's why we flooded the field. I said that in my book. Not because we were clowns. We wanted a day off.
Absolutely.
And as a middle infielder, I mean, by the end of the season, you're beat. And then, in my case, they selected me to go to winter ball in the instructional league, which was an honor. That meant you were one of their 25 prospects. You wanted 3 months off. No, we're going to go play another 60 games.
Hey, I know. Yeah, I played instructional ball 1 year with the Orioles. Yeah, with Ripken Sr. as my manager. Yeah.
He was my manager too, and Cal Jr. was my bat boy.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know that.
Clearwater, right? Was it Clearwater?
Yeah, you're right. At the Phillies.
Right.
Yeah. And I asked Cal about that later, Junior about that later. He just shake his head. He goes, "Oh yeah." I also reminded Junior too. I said, "Your dad in the dugout, as you know, during games, smoking.
Yeah.
He'd always have that, unfiltered Camel cupped in his hand." I said, "Your dad hit a cigarette like someone hitting a joint."
Yeah.
That's how hard he'd hit that thing. Yeah. And he was a little guy.
I liked his dad as a manager a lot. I really did.
Yeah.
I played from winter ball, then my first half a year in Rochester, and then my second full year in Rochester was Altobelli. But I thought Cal was underrated, I think, as a manager.
Just the last one, because I know Ron's got to go. Ron,
Okay.
Can you tell me your Augusta story, which I've always found pretty humorous?
Well, I had lunch with Rick Riley yesterday, and we were telling golf stories, and he almost burst into tears when I told him this one. That we went to after we shot Tin Cup. Well, before we shot Tin Cup, CBS, Frank Chirkanian, and the golf team embraced me and our production and let me travel to several events with them. So I was in Akron and LeBlanc, Detroit, LeBlanc, and all these places just so I could see the operation behind the scenes.
Sure.
Be in the trailer, which is amazing, 80 monitors, and how and those guys are making us narrative out of nothing. And and go out and have dinner with some of the guys and all of that, and just see what it was like. And so we embraced them. We had a great time shooting the movie. And now it was 2 months before the movie comes out. And Chirkanian, who was the dean who invented TV golf for all, really, he said, "Hey, how'd you like to come to the Masters? And then, you'll have a CBS badge, and Monday you get to play the course with select media and things." So I went back there, hung out with those guys, and by that time I was friends with all of them, and it turned out to be the Norman meltdown. So on Saturday night, all the Chirkanian and his team, McCord and all those, Nance and Costas, they go out to dinner, and Costas, Chirkanian criticizes "That's a stupid thing you said, Nance. And God damn it, McCord, shut up when I've got, Frank, he was known as the Ayatollah, belovedly. And so Frank, it turned out that they always have a Calcutta, which means they bet on the players and they buy into them every tournament, right? And Chirkanian had like $5,000 on Norman, who was his friend. And after the broadcast, Norman had said, Costas, everybody said, Norman was up 6 after Saturday. And Costas said at the end of the day, "Well, I don't think it's over because Norman's missing it left and he's missing it right. And if you're missing it one way, these guys are so good they can go make an adjustment on the range. But if you're missing it both ways, as you know, John, you got problems." That got into Norman's head, and Norman's calling Costas saying, "How dare you say that? How dare?" I'm just describing what I saw, right?
Yeah.
The next day it played out. Norman still blames Costas, you know.
Of course he does. Of course
I'm
he
up
does.
all night. Sunday night, I'm up all night. So I've seen this legendary Masters. I meet Chicane at 6 o'clock at the restaurant there at the Augusta. And he says, look, I can't play with you. I got to go to the next venue. There's some problems. You go out there, the range, there's 60 guys. They'll call you up to the tee. So I go out there. I'm warming up. I mean, I spent all summer working on my game, getting ready for this. I was down to a 4 handicap from the back tees at Riviera. It was the best I've ever played. Certainly, I can't touch that these days. So I could go out and not embarrass myself. And it gets to 60, 56, 52. It gets the fewer and fewer guys practicing on the green. And by the time you get down to about 12 guys, everybody kind of knows each other. Oh, that's the beer guy from Cincinnati, and that's the banker from Connecticut. And I'm the movie guy. I'm the Hollywood guy. So it comes down to we're the last 4. So they wave us up. We go up to the tee, and they go, Hollywood, why don't you tee up first? Have the honor. So I put the peg in the ground, the ball. I'm back there waggling. You just want to like not embarrass yourself, right?
Sure. Okay.
And this guy, the corner guy, walks out from the butler cabin or whatever the hell it is, and
Yeah.
he walks up and he whispers in the starter's ear. Now I go up there. I'm ready. The starter says, "Gentlemen, no more play today. We're calling it game. The course is now closed." It's the balls. Riley said, "Why didn't you hit it?" I said, "Well, because I was actually behind it, lining it up, or I would have hit the damn thing." And to this day, I don't know what happened. Jacanian, Nance, everybody called me the next day. What? We're so embarrassed. It's just how they are. They're very capricious. Crazy stuff happens. We'll get you back next.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, but I was the last group. I was there for 4 hours." Anyway, that's my Augusta story. That's as close as I've ever gotten to playing Augusta.
Wow, that's the ultimate tease right there.
That is the worst. That is the biggest lap dance in the history of.
Yeah, yeah. I had another analogy, but I can't say it. Yeah, but yeah, I think everyone who has ever been to Augusta, which obviously I worked that event many times, but everyone's got great stories from it, and it is a magical place. I mean, for adults, that's the adult Disneyland right there. Every blade of grass is the greenest of green. There's nothing out of place. For such a fabulous golf course, you will never see one bird on that golf course, nor will you ever see a squirrel or a chipmunk.
Really?
Really.
Ron, if you could have been on the tour or in the bigs, which would you have chosen?
Well, the big leagues, of course. I mean,
well, the tour is not bad.
Well, I don't think the tour is a lot of fun. I think I think baseball's fun. I think in the old days, the tour was fun when guys side bets were bigger than the purse.
Oh, yeah.
You go
back in the 60s. Yeah, early 60s.
All those guys had bigger bets. Texas Open would pay $1,500 and they'd have $5,000 writing the players.
Yeah.
I think baseball is a fun game because it's social, because you travel together, because John says you play every damn day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're sitting there. Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, Ron, it was nice meeting you, Ron.
Me too, John. All right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.